my desires, and he went a step further in opening a space to enlarge upon my dream. This was typical of James. I told him that I always wanted to write, and he and Alan offered me the key to their apartment. And I emailed while I was gone, so James wanted me to have a quiet space where I could write. And he encouraged me to make use of it. And then I emailed Alan and I said, thank you for your generosity. And he said, we think of you as family. So you guys must have the whole world in your families. It extends very far. On our last visit together, we hugged goodbye, and I told him that I would see him at the end of May on my next visit to New York. He said, I'll be there. I just returned from that visit, and while I could not see James, I had a lovely lunch with Alan. I didn't even know Alan could cook, because I thought James was the cook. It was really lovely. And I told him that, I'm not kidding. At their apartment, James was ever present. He was just everywhere I looked, I could see James. I love and miss him. He is knit tightly into the fabric of my life. I am a knitter, and I did teach James how to knit.
I gotta follow that too. You stand with me for a moment. Call this Holy One, full of compassion, you who dwell on high, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence in the shadow of your wings. To the soul of our dear one, James Garza, who has come to dwell in his eternal home in his memory, we pledge to do all that we can do and give all we can give so that this world in which he once lived can be filled with kindness and become a better place for those who follow him. Holy One of mercy, we implore you, watch over him in your secret chambers, so that his soul be bound in the chain of eternal life. The one that is all is now his inheritance. May he rest in peace. Together we affirm these words as we say, Amen. El Malay Rachamim, Shofein Bamram Elohim, Ansei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashkina, V'Malot Kedoshim V'Teharim, Kizar Harakia Mazirim, Nishmat Yakiri, Yakirinu, Shalach L'Omo, Lavor Shanad V'Tzedakah Ba'ad Haskarat Nishmato, B'gan Eden Ten Menuchato, L'chein Ba'al Rachamim, Yastirehu V'Seiter K'nafav L'Olamim, V'yitzor Chayim Et Nishmato, Al Nayu Nachalato, V'yanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkavo. Amen. A Buddhist teaching on grieving. The grieving are instructed to open their hearts to all pain, experience their grief and tears, and call to the Buddha for healing. Imagine and know that the Buddha responds with all his love, compassion, wisdom, and power. Tremendous rays of light stream out toward you. Imagine that light as nectar, filling your heart up completely and transforming your suffering to bliss. A Buddhist prayer. This was recited at Jimmy's funeral. It's called the Four Immeasurable Attitudes. May all beings have happiness and its causes. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings constantly dwell in joy transcending sorrow. May all beings dwell in equal love for those both close and distant. Ebony, one last time?
Yeah.
Ebony, great for recovering alcoholic.
Hi, Evan.
My home group is the Noontime, and actually Yana was my first home group, and I remember when I met James, it was like my Latin sister every time he saw me. And, in January I went to see my mom in New York because we lost our treasurer in our home group just suddenly, and I had to go home and see my mom. I have been 3 years since my diagnosis with cancer. And I had the pleasure of going to New York, and it just happened to fall when James was having his living memorial, just like James. And I got to see him and spend some time with him and eat and laugh. And I happened to go to a meeting, and it turned out to be his home group in New York too, which I found out later. And as the months, like a month or so later, I was home, and I was really depressed. I was just depressed, dealing with challenges on a daily basis. And I get this text it's from James' phone, but it's Alan. And he's like, "Are you in New York? Because James is in ICU and he woke up dreaming with you." It was like that night. And every day that I deal with a challenge, I think James got through this. James pushed forward. And I think about him. And it's like he's like my angel now. And all of our angels. So, I love him in life, and I love him even now. And this goes out to you, James, my little Latin brother from another mother. How do I fulfill my life without you? If I had to live without you, what kind of life would that be? Oh, and baby, I don't know what I would do. I'd be lost if I lost you. If you ever leave, baby, you would take away everything good in my life. And tell me now, how do I live without you? I want to know, how do I breathe without you? If you ever go, how do I ever survive? How do I live without you? There'd be no love in my life. There would be no joy in my life. There'd be no life left for me. Oh, and baby, I don't know what I would do. I'd be lost if I lost you. If you ever leave, baby, you would take away everything good in my life. And tell me now, how do I live without Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ebony can let it out now.
Yeah.
Couple of small memories. I remember when Jimmy took me to, I remember when I made Jimmy take me to midnight mass in Houston in 1987, our first Christmas together, in Spanish. Now, I recognized a lot of what they were saying. I learned it in the original. But after 45 minutes, oh, Aunt Phyllis will find that funny. Thank you. But after 45 minutes of me going, what are they saying, what are they saying, he grabbed me, exasperated, and we left. And we didn't go back to midnight mass for a long, long time. I remember Jimmy would sometimes wake up in the morning laughing. Why, I would ask. He used to dream that he was at a party with Cher or Barbara Streisand, or Bette Midler, or Anderson Cooper, or Ebony. I remember a few years ago, Jimmy told me he was driving around the Circle here in Hollywood, running errands one afternoon, when he noticed our nephew Jason. Jason, raise your hand. When he noticed our nephew Jason in front of the subway kissing a girl. I remember he told me he went back around the Circle one more time, stopped in front of the store, rolled down the window, and motioned to Jason, "I'm watching you." I tried that story out on Jason last night, having already told it. He says, "That's not the way it happened." But I like my version. So I asked Paul and Nancy and Carol to prepare some remarks and Ebony to prepare some songs. But I also wanted to make sure to give people who gather here regularly and the rest of us a chance to come up and say a few words. I'm going to ask to try for 3-minute shares. Sarah. I'm going to ask everyone to try for 3-minute shares, and just come on up as you like. Sarah's going to go first.
Hi. I'm yet another alcoholic, and my name is Sarah.
Hi,
Sarah. And I too met Jimmy in these rooms, and I just love the pictures of him. But you know what's been going through my mind is this whole, because we got to know him as Jimmy James over the last couple of years, because Alan, presenting his medallion, called him Jimmy, and we all knew him as James. So it started to leak out into the meetings, and he couldn't quite find his footing with it, so he wound up with Jimmy James. But you know, people have said such marvelous things, and I baked the cookies and treats for today, and I always like to bake for James, and so now when I bake, I tend to visit with him in my kitchen, and so I like to visit with James. I find that works for me in terms of people that I've lost in the living today. And with that, I don't think I took 3 minutes, but that's it for me.
My name is Pammy Sue, and I'm also an alcoholic, and I loved it. Not that I take anything personally or think it's always all about me, but when he said Jimmy James, I knew it was to make me happy because I'm Pammy Sue. So we have two names each, you know? And I gotta tell you, Nancy, he's really happy, really, really happy to hear you calling him Jimmy. He really is. I was, and I don't remember either, Carol, how or where I met him, but it was somewhere in the meeting, and he was friends with my sister first, and they had a lot in common because she was ill, and they're together now. They're together now. And a little bit of me is jealous about that, just so you know. But we had made a date to have dinner a few nights before he left this last time. I didn't want to go. He didn't want to go. I'd worked all day. We were both tired. But I knew in my heart that I had to go. I had to go, that this was really important. And it's really important even if the other person isn't sick, you know? But that made it even more, I just knew. Having gone through this 4 years earlier, I just knew. And you were the love of his life. Absolutely, you know, and I'm a little jealous of that. Yeah, wasn't me. But, you know, I said earlier, he was, and look at him, he is a gorgeous creature. He is a gorgeous creature. But he wasn't just gorgeous on the outside, he was gorgeous on the inside. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm truly, and we discussed at dinner that night, we discussed how he really wanted to be called Jimmy now, you know, and how he had really worked through all of that, and how he had the conversation with Nancy about James versus Jimmy, and so he's really happy to be called Jimmy now. And I know when I had that last hug with him on Hollywood Boulevard, and we went to the Chinese restaurant. He used to go there with one of his aunts, and so it's where we went. But when I had that hug, you know, I knew. But I'm just grateful, and I hope that I carry some of the gifts that I got from this man. You know, that I can carry them. I know I carry them. I don't hope. I know that you can't help but not carry it, you know? And what a gift, you know? Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is V.
Hi,
And I'm the family trainer, and I thought he was my best friend.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I was sure of it the moment before the whole Jimmy James thing came to be, when he told me to start calling him Jimmy, because all his, friends did. I met Jimmy in December 2008 at an AA meeting, about 1 week out of an 8.5-year prison sentence. Bad decision to drive. He heard my story and he offered his friendship without judgment. I came home with a vision, and Jimmy was probably my first friend in my new life, and both him and Alan really believed in me and encouraged me. Jimmy was one of my first customers in the training business that has only grown over the past few years, and I could only hope to be where I am now with 10 years in my new life, more than 3.5. Both Jimmy and Alan have been an amazing source of encouragement, and I'm proud to count them as friends. You lost an amazing partner, Alan, and we've all lost a great friend. Great example of love and character. But I tell you this, the heavens couldn't have gained a more worthy angel, and a guardian to guide us through this life. James was so full of wisdom and understanding. He was a key mentor in my life. He lived in a constant state of wonder and revelation, always striving to grow. Before he had left us at the young age of 50, he reached a state of being in this life that most people that live to 90 never reach. I will celebrate Jimmy's life by honoring his memory and mentorship and being the very best man I can be, always striving to grow.
I'm Ann Phyllis.
Hi.
We all
know.
I've been warned, only 3 minutes. Alan thinks I speak a little too much sometimes.